Remember to subscribe and like the video because we have huge things coming. Comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron James always ends in a stalemate. They didn't play in the same era, so there's no way of knowing how Jordan would fare in today's fast-paced game, or how LeBron would perform against the menacing defense of Jordan's time. Today, we're going to analyze each player's chances of succeeding in the other's era. Let's start with LeBron. LeBron James is surprisingly only 1 inch taller than the average NBA player in the 1990s. His size is said to be what would set him apart, and this may be true, but his skill will put him at the top of the league. His shooting touch, although not great by today's standards, would be above average for his size and attempts per game. He was one of the few players physically gifted enough to take the beating that is usually associated with the 1990s defense. He would benefit tremendously from the slower pace of the game too. Being able to set the tone of the game at a speed opponents are not used to would make James unstoppable. His teams would have the best offensive rating in the league, no matter who was on the floor. He may find trouble, however, with the relaxed nature of the referees, LeBron would not be able to draw fouls the same way he can now. The decrease in free throw shots wouldn't hurt his averages too much, but a decrease in his shooting per game would definitely be expected. With that being said, he would be able to dominate his opponents and would still be one of the best players in the league in Jordan's era. Michael Jordan playing in today's game would be even more interesting. In the NBA now, teams rely on singular players carrying the entire squad for playoff runs. Many guys struggle to do that. For Jordan though, it was commonplace. He took over games with his scoring constantly. He averaged 30 points per game, almost exclusively on 2-pointers and free throws. In the playoffs, he averaged 33.4 points per game. In a league where offensive stars are rewarded heavily, Jordan's scoring outputs in both the regular season and playoff would be amplified. The knock on many of today's top players is the one-sided nature of their games. They focus almost entirely on the offensive aspects of their game and ignore defense. Michael won a Defensive Player of the Year award and made 9 all-defensive first teams and 3 second teams. That kind of two-way play resembles someone like Kawhi Leonard and would make Jordan easily the best player in the league. The top offensive players in the NBA normally do not put up great statistics on the defensive side of the ball. Players like Bradley Beal, James Harden, Devin Booker, Kyrie Irving, and many more are known solely for their offensive play, but not so much for their defensive side. Jordan would be leading a team and putting up amazing stats, not just empty stats on a bad team, which is emblematic of so many players in this era. The knock on Jordan would be his three-point shooting. He was never a high percentage shooter from deep, and in an era where three-point percentage determines a player's worth, that may hold MJ back. But with that being said, the increased value of the three-point shot would have just made him work at it more. He was able to cruise through the late 1980s and all of the 90s with a subpar jumper. So with the era's weak defense, there's no reason he could prove himself to be the undisputed greatest of all time, especially if he was in his prime. Watching them play each other in either era would be amazing. That head-to-head matchup once or twice a year would definitely get a lot of attention. Jordan's finesse versus LeBron's athleticism would make NBA viewership skyrocket. Having them play against the same competition is the only thing that would legitimize a final argument about who's the greatest player to ever step on the hardwood. Although there's no way to put LeBron in the 90s or MJ in the 2010s, that's what video game simulations are for. Maybe they aren't completely accurate, but we have no better option to see how either player would fare. The ability to speculate, however, is fun, and is what keeps this debate going. Now, arguments for each player come out different all of the time, and with each valid one for Jordan, there's one for LeBron. One thing everyone debating can agree on, though, is that both players would tear up the league no matter which era they played in. Remember to subscribe and like the video because we have huge things coming.